Good morning, Rabbi Isai. What a treat. Rabbi Isai, Daf Ayin Beis Amud Beis, holding two lines from the bottom. Very Gishmakas Sugis Grada. Ravina Omar, we're discussing, in the Mishnah it says that if an animal pokes its hand out, its hand comes out, and you shech the mother first, and then you cut off that limb that stuck out. The limb that stuck out is even min achai, it's tamei. So the Gemara says, how could the tumah go from that piece that's sticking out to the rest of the fetus? It's tumas beis hastarim. But it's beautiful because the idea was that this brown over here, each part does not touch each other. Why? Because the only part that's touching that you could actually see is this brown, but it's too thin. The brown itself doesn't touch the other brown. What does touch? The white inside. This white touches this white. Any object, the top part is not touching. It's only the inside part. But the inside part is something you don't see. It's always hidden. When it's like this, you don't see it. You don't see white. That's Tumas Beis HaStarim. All you see is brown. The white part right over here is not shown. It was kedai for that sefer. The question is, what's the difference between this picture right over here, when you cut off a limb, and we say that the tumah transfers from the limb into the fetus, and this case where the tumah, when you cut a beggar that's 3 by 3, you cut it in half, the tumah doesn't transfer from one to the other. They're both tumas beis hastarim. They're both tumah that's connected in a hidden place. So Ula said of Vart last night, or whenever you learned it, that when you're cutting a limb, it's inevitable that one little piece is going to touch the other. It's like Ivshal Tzamtzem, sort of. And as it touches it, then it transfers that tumah to it. Ravina Omar, now we're holding by Ravina. 2 lines from the bottom. Ravina Omar, beged lav l'chaticha koi. The difference is that nobody goes around cutting their own garments. It's not made, you have a nice shirt, you're not cutting it. Beged lav l'chaticha koi. Uber l'chaticha koi. Listen to this. This fetus is there to be cut up, especially its leg that's completely tamei. We want to chop it off and gone. But anyway, an animal is made to chop up into pieces and sell. And the halacha is, anything that's about to be cut, we had it just a few days ago, same idea, same concept. Anything that's about to, you're going to pluck it from a tree, it's as if it's off the tree. Something that's about to be cut, so it's like it's cut. No, so look, you have 2 pieces. They're about to be like this. So now that they are like this is nothing. They're touching each other. It's 2 separate pieces touching each other. So yes, this is hidden, but it's not hidden. It's as if it's not hidden because it's supposed to be like this. It's supposed to be 2 separate pieces. Because it's as if it's cut. So the fact that they're touching doesn't mean that they're touching in a hidden place. Says the Gemara, come on, Kirby Meir. This goes like Meir. This whole Amud, Rabbi Isai, a lot of this Amud is repetitive and easy. It's givaldik. So a bunch of freebies. Kiman Kirby Meir. This nan kol yodes hakelim sheim arukos. If you have a handle to a kli that's long, va'ased lekatzitzan, and you're about to cut it down, makbil ad mokoy midah. I had this in my machsan. If you want to put this in a mikvah, how much do you put in? You don't have to put the whole entire handle in because this is all extra. How much do you put in the mikvah? Just this amount. So let's say this is the top of the mikvah, you go like this. Givaldik. So why? Because Rameir holds that all this whole entire part is kechatuch dami. You're going to come home, chop. So this is gone. And Mamela, you don't have to be toivel this part. Toisus asks a wonderful question. And he messes up the whole pshat here because of that.
What about the pshat? What about the part that you cut?
That's the whole thing.
That's what Toisus is asking here. When you have two parts, this part is garbage, I don't need it. But when you put it in the mikvah, it's not allowing water to touch this part right over here. It's creating a chatzitza. So Tosis explains that we must be talking about a special handle that's made out of different moving parts, and the water gets into every single part. So, Reb Meir holds that you could be toivel this. Why? Because you're going to cut this. Here, we even have a video. After all this, I should have been in cahoots with Yoshi. This is Geschmack. In Borough Park, Stiebel spelled with a tough. Well, he had the long handle to do the tefillah, but afterwards he didn't need it. Says Gemara, but that's not only Remeir. You have to be toivel the entire thing. I feel Rabbanon, it could go according to Rabbanon also in tefillah. When it comes to food, everything is so soft, and it's as if everything is broken up. So at the end of the day, they are touching each other even in Beis HaStarim. Says Gemara, Bishloim Ula. So Ula says that the animal limb, as it's being cut, it touches the fetus, and that's why it makes the fetus tummy. So Bishloim Ula Hainu Diktoni Chatacha. You have to cut it because during the cutting process, that's when the limb touches the fetus. El Ravina Mai Chatacha. Why do you have to cut it? He holds that if it's just about to be cut, it's as if it is cut, so why does he physically have to cut it? Says the Gemara, you're right, you don't have to cut it. In the beginning, it says in the Mishnah that if the limb is attached to the fetus, and before you shechted the mother, you cut the limb, the Mishnah comes to tell you chiddush that it's not, there's no tumah. So I need to say that it was cut. So Tana say v'nami chatacha. Since the Reish is talking about it was cut, so the Seif also says it's cut, but it's not necessary. If you look at the Mishnah, it's hard to notice in the beginning, but that's what it says. What does it say in the Mishnah? That this limb that's attached to the animal, to the fetus, and you cut it, it doesn't create a nevela tuma, it creates a treifa tuma. The question is, treifa shchuta mimitami, what kind of treifa is not tummy? That's the whole point. When you shech the treifa, you get rid of the tuma. Why does the Mishnah say this tuma? There is some sort of tuma. And there's a chiddush gadol. I wonder if we're going to remember this chiddush. Treifa sheshchata mitama b'mukdashim. According to one Pshan and Rashi, yes, it has the ability to be mitama kachim. Midrabana, there is a tuma. Treifa gives off a tuma. Remember that. So the Mishnah continues. We find by treifa that the shechita gets rid of all the tuma from the nevela. Sticking the word here, ha'aver. The Chacham are saying, so too the shechita of the animal should get rid of the tumah of the limb. Tanya, Amar Rebbe Meir. So now, this is what I was saying, that we have a whole bunch of freebie here. Says Rebbe Meir, who got rid of the nevela, the shechita of the mother? Well, obviously, you cannot eat that limb. So if you can't eat the limb, then it should be tummy. What's going on here? How can you get rid of tumah and not being able to eat it? No, she has the ability to get rid of things that are not part of her more than herself, which doesn't really make sense now. It doesn't really answer the question. Sharei Shaninu, and we in fact, we learned, what is going on here? It doesn't answer. So the Gemara is going to explain. We'll say it again, we learned it many times, that the animal itself, if you do shechita to the animal, it has the ability to be mitayr a limb that's inside the stomach. But it doesn't have the ability to be mitayr its own kidney that you cut in its stomach. But how does that answer anything? Maika Amri, Omaravo, V'Amri L'Kidi. Some say it's just doesn't have a name. Some people say it's anonymous. But Chasur Mechzer V'Achitani, interesting, typical. A lot of times you find in the Mishnah that there are certain lines missing. You know how to fill them in yourself. Let me explain to you how it goes. Omar Lamir Meir. So this starts off regular. Who said, according to you, I hold that it's nothing. But according to you, that this this foot that's sticking out is not a nevela. How did that happen? How did it become not a nevela? Because you shechted the mother. Shchita simay. Imkei that they read about achila. So if so, you should be able to eat it, but you can't eat it. So if you can't eat it, it should be tamei. Amr loy. So they said, this is where they added that we don't have in our Mishnah. Amr loy treifa terchiach. No, there's something called a treifa. Sheshchitasim et harasim de nevela. You could get rid of the tumah, but you can't eat it. Oh, it's exactly a raya against what you said. It's not a stira. Sometimes you can get rid of tumah and you can't eat it. Ve'ena matiras b'achila. Amar lahen loy. Im tiaro shchitas treifa yisah dov shu gufa. You could take away the tumah from an animal itself because it's itself. The taras ha'ever dov sheni gufa. How does it have the ability to get rid of tumah of something that's not part of it? Amar loy. No, what are you talking about? Harbe matzel she'enoi gufa yoisim gufa. Sometimes you have the ability. You see, I know people myself. You see, they have the ability to make bali tshuva, to encourage other people, but with their own kids, they struggle. Harbe matzeles al she'enoi gufa yoisim gufa. Sometimes you have more influence on she'enoi gufa that's not yours than yourself. This animal, herself, she can't save herself. She can't save her own kidney, but she could save the fetus's leg. Oh, the good news is we have this all over again. Mamash a freebie. Tanya nami hachi. Omar lem Rabbi Meir. So we learned something. Mamash similar. Who was matayr this? The mother. It's just repeating. So if it takes away from the nevela, so you should be able to eat it. This chesurim mechser aboisai, what Rava says is, we have to add. You don't have to. It's mafurish in the brisa that was added. I just chopped that now. That's not a chesurim mechser. Like, here we go again. We're adding words. No, it's in the brisa. These words, just not in the Mishnah. You see this concept by treifa, that what? You shecht an animal that has, like we did in Prushim, we shechted the animal, he opens it up and he says, sorry guys, you can't eat it. All your money that you spend on this sheep, toss it away. Not even 1 gram of meat, garnished. But there's no tumah on that animal. We touched it, we all blew up the lungs and everything. Why? You're not allowed to eat it, but there's no tumah. Itself it can get rid of the tumah. So now the Gemara introduces something that we're going to be talking about next sugya. There's something called Aver Hamidulba. Let me show you even a picture. A dangling limb. Check this out. Nebuch. You see this? It's a dangler. What is a dangler? It's holding on b'chut asayra mamish. So what's the halacha over here? If you shech this animal, could you eat that bottom part of the leg? Yes or no? What do you say? Does the shechita transfer to that? So that's the sugya. A little bit of the sugya. The shechita works. That's because davar shegufa, it's mamish part of it. How does it have the ability to get rid of tumah on a fetus that's not even part of it? Yes, it actually has the ability, it's easier for it to have influence on something that's not part of her than something that is part of her. And I'll prove it to you. If you cut off a limb from the animal, you cut off its front foot of the fetus, inside the mother's stomach, you're allowed to eat that piece when you shech the mother. But if you cut off a part of the mother herself, from her spleen, you part of a cut of the kidney, also when you shech the mother, that piece is considered even mechai, you're not allowed to eat it. Brand new sugya. Omer Shim Lakish says Rish Lakish, Ki machloikes bu'ubarin kach machloikes be'evarim. Just like we saw in the Mishnah, that when this case, when you chop off, you shech the mother, then you cut off the limb. According to Chachamim, there's no tumah to the rest of the fetus. According to Rameir, there is. The same achloikis we'll have over here by this case. By Ever Amaduldo. According to Chachamim, if you shech the animal, there's it has an effect on the rest of the leg. It's good. And according to Rameir, no. So too you have a machlokes by the animals itself, its limb itself, that's meduldul, that's a dangler. Rabbi Yochanan Omar comes Rabbi Yochanan and says, machlokes be'ever du'ubar, you're right, in our Mishnah says, mefurish is machlokes between Rameir and Chachamim, if the shechita has an effect on the actual limb that comes out of the animal. Ava be'ever de be'ema de re'akol shechita oise nipul. Oh, that's what's so geschmack here. There's always a new word, a new concept. Nipul. What's nipul? Shechita oise nipul. That what? That when you do shechita, it's as if this limb fell off before the shechita. You shecht, and then it's considered the limb fell off before. So what? What happened? So this limb is considered Eiver Min HaChai. It fell off before the shechita. Later on, we're going to see that it's not true. The Gemara is going to ask a question and say, no, Rabbi Yochanan said, Divrei HaKol ein shechita oise nipul. Right now, shechita oise nipul, but in a second, he's going to change it. It's ein shechita oise nipul. In other words, right now, this limb is Eiver Min HaChai. Later on, we're going to say, according to everybody, it's good shechita. Okay. Omer Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Chanina, my time of the Rabbi Yochanan, aliba de Rabbanon. What's, according to Rameir is consistent. He says, a limb that comes out of the animal, a limb that's dangling from an animal, both are not part of the animal. They both have tuma. The shechita doesn't work. But why is it the Rabbanon make a distinction? They say, oh, if it's a limb coming out of a fetus, then the shechita is great. But when it comes to a limb that's meduldul, a dangler, no, the shechita doesn't work. What's the difference? Says Gemara Gevaldik, how you sleep the kanda b'chazara, how you sleep the kanda b'chazara. They hold, we had a whole machlokes in that. What if the animal pulls its leg back in? Since it could pull its leg back in, so maybe the shechita works on it. It's like kol haroy lebila, sort of. It has the ability to be good, to be okay, but a dangler can never heal, and it's about to pop off anyway, so the shechita doesn't work for it. Meisvei. Question on Rabbi Yochanan, that what? Rabbi Yochanan says that when it comes to a dangler, Eiver Meduldul, everybody holds that the shechita doesn't work. Because as soon as you do shechita, it's as if that the dangling limb is detached, it's Eiver Min HaChai from before. So the question is, Omerlam Remeir, listen to this lashon, Loi, im tihara, what does tihara mean? It works, the shechita is good. Not good. Rabbi Yochanan said it's not good. In what case? In tiarosh chitas treifa oisa v'soever amedudul ba. Imam had it like 10 lines ago or less. He says before Rameir says what you Rabbi Yochanan telling me that according to everybody, even according to Rameir, the shechita doesn't do anything for a dangler. Over here he says beforish im tiarosh chitas esoever amedudul. The shechita works to help a dangling limb. That's because it's its own body. Very good. But Tachlis, Rameir says that a dangler could be saved by the shechita. Says the Gemara that bang yellow and based on top. Rameir is talking to Chacham. According to me, you already know my shita. Rameir says, an animal sticking its limb out, a dangling aver, the shechita doesn't work. But according to you, why don't you agree to me by, okay, you want to tell me that a dangler, the shechita works? Great, because it's part of the animal. That you could see. You can see this case right over here, it makes a lot of sense. A lot of people will say that the shechita works in the bottom part. Why not? It's still attached. But at least agree to me that in this case, the shechita has no effect on that limb. It's not part of its body. So it works well with Rish Lakish. El Rabbi Yochanan Kasha. According to Rabbi Yochanan, that you tell me that everybody agrees in this case, the case of the dangler, that the shechita doesn't work. Over here says before that according to Rameir it does work. How can you tell me everybody says that? You're right. So we can't get out of this question. Eli Itmar, this is what it really said. Omer Shlakish, this is the same as we had before. We're going to change Rabbi Yochanan like I mentioned before. We have the same machlek. That what Chacham hold in both cases by the dangling leg and by the uber sticking his foot out, the shechita does work. We have a machlekes. The whole machlekes is only in this case when the fetus sticks his foot out. But when it comes to this case, was changing one word, ein. What is ein shchita? Meaning the shchita works. It's not. We don't look at it like Avram and Achai that it fell off. The shchita is going to work according to everybody. On my time is the Rabbi Yochanan, I leave it to Rabbi Meir. But why does Rabbi Meir change the shchita now? In this case, over here on the screen, when you have a dingler, he says shchita works. And in this case, he says shchita doesn't work when the limb comes out of the animal. Says Gemara, very pashat. Hi gufa, I love gufa. This case on the screen with the limb, it's not the actual animal, so the shchita doesn't work. But over here, it's the actual animal, so the shchita does work. Omer Avizo bar Yosef Omer Rabbi Yochanan. Hakol moedim shemisa oisanipol. Everybody agrees that when an animal dies with a dangler, that whatever was dangling is considered that it fell off before. What's the nafkamina? What's going on here? It died, so it died. So the foot is dead. The animal's dead. The animal's in a vela. No. What are you tying up? The animal died, so it gives off a tumah of a nevela. No. Its foot fell off before, and therefore what? What changed? What changed is very, very important. What changed?
It's a rishon.
No. I don't think you could guess this. If it falls off before it died, then it's Avram and Achai. And an Avram and Achai has different halachas than a nevela. If, let's say a whole limb fell off, so it's Avram and Achai. And then from that limb, a piece of meat fell off, there's no tumah to that. It's a piece of meat that fell off Avram and Achai. There's different halachas for whatever it means. So everybody agrees that when it dies, then you find out retroactively that this limb was already, the dangler was already not part of it, it's Avram and Achai. But everybody agrees, vein shchita is a nipple. But shchita, in other words, the shchita works on a dangler. And you can eat the dangling foot. But my askinos, what says the Gemara, what are we talking about? If we're talking about this case, it can't be. The case of the ubar, I don't have it over there. This screen is off for whatever reason. That we already had a machlek. The Mishnah Rameir says it doesn't work. Chacham say it does work. Ella be'ever the behema. We're talking about this guy, the dangler. I wish I would use this last night in the Hebrew shir. I looked through it. I didn't understand the picture. I was like, okay, next. Ella be'ever the behema. Says the Gemara, but why? Misa tanino shchita tanino. What do we need this case? These cases were already stated, and we don't repeat things twice. Misa tanino, we already learned the case of Misa, that the animal died with a dangling limb. It says, Mesa behema, this animal has a dangling limb or meat that's dangling. So it depends. Habasar tsar chechsher. There's something called mushal kabel tumah. There's something called that in order for something to become tameh, you have to prepare it with liquids. You have to pour one of the 7 liquids on it. So meat that fell off, that was a dangling piece of meat, you need to, in order for it to become tameh, you need to prep it with some sort of liquid, like any type of meat that came off a live animal. And a limb gives off tumah of Avram and Achai. You see over here that misa oisanipol. Rabbi say, you see this nafkamina? It's not an avela, it's Avram and Achai. Meaning the misa created that it's separated. It's not an avela. Because it wasn't separated, what would it be? An avela. It dropped dead, so it's an avela. But it's not an avela. It's as if it got detached a moment before it died. So we already learned this halacha that misa oisanipol. Shchita namitanina, and the idea that shchita works to give it a halacha as if it was shechted, even though it was dangling. Tanina nishchata behema, huchsharu b'dameh. Now pay attention. Huchsharu is plural. They become prepared with the blood of the animal. What's they? They means the meat and the dangling limb. Two things, meat, a chunk of meat, and a dangling limb. We already learned these two halachas of misa, oisanipol, shchita, ein oisanipol. Great. So why do you have to repeat it? We're not talking about a limb. Maybe we would think that we're talking about meat. But it says plural. So what could it be? It could only be meat and a limb. So I know that a limb is also included. No. No, they're both referring to meat, but there's two types of meat. One is a piece of meat that comes right off the animal, another piece that came off the limb that was dangling after the shechita. Why would I say that one piece of meat is different? Yes, there is a reason. The father of this piece of meat, where does this piece of meat come from? A dangling limb. The dangling limb is Eiver Menachai. Eiver Menachai is a very severe tumah. So I would think a very severe tumah doesn't need prep. It's so severe you don't need to prep it. You get away. We find, Rashi says, you see by a bird also, you don't have to prep. So, maybe you don't need to do mushal kabbalah. Therefore, it says no. The two types of meat. So I'm not forced to say that it's talking about an aver. It could be talking two types of meat. Rabbi Sai, have a wonderful day.
Merit the schus of spreading Torah throughout the world. Sponsor a shir today. MDYsponsor.com or sponsor at MDY.com.